Hello and welcome to another INB382 video demo, and in this case we're looking at a Toon shader. As we can see, fairly straightforward, here is our Toon shaded teapot. So we'll notice a couple of things that are part of the components of the simple Toon shader we show in the lecture. First of all, there's the edge detection. Not a perfect method for complex geometry, but we can see here that as the surface normal in world space goes and curves back around towards the other direction, towards away from the camera, the edge values fall to a point whereby when we use the quantizing edge texture just over here, then we end up with quantized edge values, which is an edge close to 0. As you can see, there's an asymmetry in the way the one-dimensional texture is set up. So the dark patch is not a great component of the entire length of the texture. This means that when you apply that as a quantized value to the edge value calculated from the surface normal, it only turns on around the edges and we get this effect. Again, not a perfect method, but a good first grasp. Also, we see that the diffuse component has been quantized. I've just made it a green color. So it's been quantized into two values. And we can see here light green and a darker green. Same method, using the texture access to quantize the color. And then the specular component, again, has a different ramp. So the white is further up the ramp values. So only when they're close to white do they actually turn up, and the rest are just turned off with the black value there in the texture. So this means that we get this heavily quantized color, and this means that we end up with is quite sort of pleasant first entry-level Toon shader, and it works quite well. If we look in the shader itself, it's all straightforward. Here are the ramps that come in: edge, diffuse, and specular. So that's fairly straightforward. Most of the calculations are straightforward because in the end the lighting is done the same as with any other diffuse. Well, sorry, it's basically a Phong shader with Phong lighting model and Phong shading. So all that happens is the color ramps are heavily quantized. So if we have a look here, calculate some typical value, 2 camera from the world camera space, reflection vector. We then calculate an edge value. So it's just a dot product of the 2 camera and the surface normal, which means that effectively it just when it's towards the edge of the screen, that will be low enough that we will end up with a dark value coming back from the texture ramp. When we do the specular value, we can see here's just a standard sort of specular calculation, exponentiated and so forth. But we then pass that to our texture to do the specular ramp, and we end up with a on-off of the specular values, no sort of fall off at all. And for the diffuse values, we have the same thing happening again. So a typical diffuse value from light direction and the surface normal calculation, all good. And then using the texture access in the ramp in order to produce a diffuse value. That diffuse value has been quantized. So it's been reduced down to 2 tones, and those 2 tones are used to multiply a diffuse material, which is green in this case. And the specular is used to multiply the specular material. And as you can see, the edge turns the other values on and off. And this is how we end up with our Toon shaded teapot. So that's basically it. Thank you very much for listening to this video. That's all for now.